Alright, so in this introductory to grinding, we're still getting started here. I've got an old electrode holder here, and it's been out in the garage for a while, and it's time to get this thing flat, parallel, and square again. So with the help of one of my able-bodied assistants today, you're going to see from start to finish a decision process as we go through, set up a grinding wheel, dress it, and grind this basically 1 inch by 1 inch cube flat and parallel and square again. So we'll get started with that now. So the first thing you're going to do is, why don't you do that again, Ryan? Make sure your table's nice and stone smooth. Any burrs, as we said before in the last video, we want to make sure we clean it with our hand, so we're not picking up grinding dust or particles and wiping them right into the surface, because the chucks are not hardened. So that's a nice smooth India stone. Okay, nice and clean.
Yep.
Next up, we're going to change this wheel. Again, like we said last week, that's a left-handed thread. So you have to hit it the opposite way to loosen it. You've actually got to turn that clockwise to break the thread loose.
I think I'm doing it the right way, right?
Yep, you're doing it the right way. Probably hasn't been off there in a long time.
It's been on there for a couple of days.
And then for this particular exercise today, we're going to use, what's that, a 46 grit H?
Yep, 46H.
Okay. And he's going to ring test it, just like we taught before, no cracks. The wheel on, then the washer. Okay, and back to the same lesson, he's going to turn it counterclockwise to tighten it. And you don't have to put a pipe on that thing or it'll crack the wheel. Just make sure it's nice and snug, maybe give it a wrap. Piece of brass on the wrench, and that takes care of that. Now he's
Start it up.
Now, do you usually close the guard first, or you're going to leave it open to dress it?
Yeah, we usually close.
Give it a little push first. Hit the start button. Take the shock out of the wheel when you start it like that. Once again, get rid of a little dust accumulated from the mounting the wheel. Now it's time to dress the wheel. Now, Ryan, do you turn that dresser around every once in a while just to get a different part on the dressing, on the diamond, or put it on there the same way every time?
I guess I kind of change it up, but mostly
Right.
I keep it like this. So
Okay.
it has more magnetism down.
All right. Now, this is like I told you last week, this particular grinder has the Z-axis or the head traverse down here. Some people don't like that. It's very convenient when you're slot grinding because your arm isn't up in the air for half an hour at a time, but it's easy to bump if you're not used to it.
It does not have rapid feed.
Does not have rapid feed. So, wheel dresser's on there, magnet is on.
Yep.
As you can see, he's set up a little to the left of the wheel, left of center. Slowly bring the wheel down into the diamond until it just touches. Now, how much will you be taking off there at a time? How much do you usually drop that head?
I normally drop it about 10 or 5.
Okay. I usually just take a couple at a time. Now, how will you know when that wheel is dressed? Are you looking for sound?
I feel it.
Okay. You can tell when it's a nice even cut all the way across?
Yeah.
All right.
But some people don't like that. I can hear that that's not even still.
Now, do you go only one way and then take the backlash out of it?
I normally come back across it just to try and knock off any high spots.
Okay. A little loose granules.
Yeah. Now I'll actually feel to see if the wheel
Don't try this at home, kids. What are you feeling there?
I'm feeling a little high spot.
Does the wheel feel like it's still running out a little bit?
No, the wheel's running smooth. Though.
Okay.
But if you were doing graphite, you want to knock off that high spot.
Now I used to just take the other end of my brush and just brush that up against it. And that'll usually take care of it, or even a piece of shim stock.
That's what I was looking for, is a piece of shim stock.
And that's just knocking off any little loose granules that the dresser missed.
That feels good and smooth.
Okay.
Now I just move the table all the way over to here.
Get everything out of the way.
Yeah, get the wheel out of the way of your hand.
All right, so now we're going to take this electrode holder and we're going to check it to see on an indicator how flat and smooth it is. Now there's some...
I'm noticing there's bumps, so I'm going to stone it off just to make sure there's no high spots.
Okay.
Throw it at it.
Those are from set screws from the EDM machine. Work before you check it. And before you grind it, at that point.
Take a little fuzz off with this Scotch-Brite.
Scotch-Brite's a great tool, isn't it?
Very great.
I use it for stuff all the time.
I don't know where we'd be without it.
So you're going to set that at a 0. And again, I was always taught not to use too much of your travel, right?
Yes.
5 or 6 thousand.
That way.
Little bow in the middle, maybe.
Maybe.
0 on that end. Plus a couple in the middle.
Yep.
Now that would tell me, if you flip that over, I'm just curious, the whole thing. Now if you put your indicator on the end and touch the other end, you got a rock?
Yep.
Sure do. Okay, so we definitely have a piece here. It'll be a great experiment here. You've got a couple choices now to flatten this thing out. And in my experience, I would either grab that in a grinding vise, which will take the bow, won't take the bow out, but the last thing you want to do is suck that thing down the magnet the way it is now. So I just want to make sure you understand that. It's bowed, and if he puts it on the magnet and turns it on the grinder, it's just going to take the bow out of it. He's going to grind it flat, and as soon as he takes the magnet off again, shuts it off, he's going to be bowed. You can't get a bow out of a piece by sucking it down to the magnet. You will be as long as it's sucked to the magnet.
Yeah.
Now another little point there too though is if that part was going to be bolted down and had bolt holes in it and it had a little bow in it, it's not the end of the world. If you flatten it on a magnet and bolt it down, it's going to be fine. Like a gib, a mold, right?
Yes.
Alright, so what's the strategy here? You're going to go with the
vise.
The vise, okay.
I'll grab a grinder vise and
alright.
I'll be back. This vise.
So that's your own grinding vise?
This is a shop's vise.
Okay.
I know it's a good square vise.
Okay. What do you consider good and square?
Square.
Couple tenths?
Yeah,
Dead nuts?
Couple tenths.
Okay. Now, would you ever see the need to put parallels under either end of that to support it, or not? As long as it's above the grinder and you're just going to be skimming it?
Above the grinder and I'm just skimming it.
Okay.
I feel comfortable
So you're going
with this.
And how tight do you want?
I'm trying to think of which side I want to grind first. I want to start with this.
Okay.
This side's just barely above the vise.
Now, if, again, just for people who are watching this, if it wasn't, you'd have to put a parallel under it at that point. Or a pin?
Yeah, or a pin.
Okay, that's a great point.
I think that'll work.
So it's just an injector pin?
Yeah, this is just cut off ejector
Which
pin.
are nice and round.
Nice and round, yeah. Ends radiused off so they don't have a burr on them.
Okay. And again, you can get away with a lot more stuff on a grinder than you can on a mill. On a mill, you would not want to be milling stuff with a pin just under it. Or if you're going to do it, don't take too much off. But now, how tight do you tighten it?
Give
Just
it
snug,
a
right?
little snug, yeah. I want my fingers to slip on it. I don't want to force it over.
And why wouldn't you want to force it?
I can kick the
movable jaw up a little bit?
jaw a
Okay.
little bit,
All right.
throw stuff out.
So that's a great point. On a grinder, you always want to be firm and snug.
Yes.
You don't want to.
Pen. It's wiggling.
The pin's a little loose. So
So I always use wood,
Okay.
preferably, because I can just smack it a little bit, give it a nice little smackaroo. Most of the time I do this on the vise, on the magnetic chuck.
with the grinder, with the vise right on it.
Yeah.
You can do that if you want. Now I have a question for you. Because of the length of this part, I mean, it looks like we got about 8 inches there. At what point would you consider tilting the grinding? If you loosen up, turn off the magnet for a second. At what point would you? Well, I don't loosen up there. Can you see if you can loosen that? I'm still holding the camera. There we go. You know how sometimes you'll do things on an angle to get rid of the heat?
Yes.
Since you're just skimming this in because it's not that far out, no need to do that, you think?
I'm taking a very small amount and I'm using a 46H, so
Okay.
it's not going to heat up as much. If I was using like a 100i, I definitely want it to.
I'll tell you what, why don't you do this side straight and then before we finish the tutorial, we'll turn on an angle just so they see the difference, okay?
Sounds good.
That magnet's a tight one.
Yeah, it is.
And you know, this is a little bit of an older grinder, and magnets do have a little bit of a personality to them. And some of them, as they get older, don't want to let go as easy. And this is maybe one of those.
One thing you can do is you can reverse the polarity once in a while on the plug. And I find that helps with the demagnetism.
It's on.
It's on.
Amazing.
off.
That's a great trick.
Yeah, my dad showed me that.
And just for the kicks, I think we forgot this last time I did a video here. Show me that switch again. What do you got there? It's on,
This is on,
right?
and then that's off.
Right.
Now it's still on. You
Doesn't
can't
want to let
move
go even though it's off.
even though it's off. But if you were grinding a flat piece, that could take some of the bow out of it.
Okay.
It's not going to pull it down as much,
Okay.
but it's still going to grab it. But you don't want to take a lot with that. But that demagnetizes it so it can come off.
Okay.
But
Kind of tells.
it's better to go from on to right to the demag.
Do that again.
From on.
Right to demag. Okay.
That. And I always give it a couple of flicks, and there you see it came right off.
Okay. So wheels dressed. You got your part in your grinding vise, and now you're going to dial up your head.
Well, I wanted to check the pin, and the pin is still moving.
The pin that you're using for a parallel.
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to give it just a little tap down.
Still bouncing on you a little bit.
Totally loose on this side, so this is why I don't use brass.
It bounces.
Jump the part back.
Right.
So I use that. Actually, it loosened up through pulling this on and off.
Did you ever use lead? Lead's got a little bit more of a dead blow to it.
Yeah, I've used lead.
So this is a really great thing we're recording here. He's really playing with this a little bit because he doesn't want that that part in the vise to be not parallel with the jaw. So sometimes it's just a matter of how tight you're tightening your vise jaw and playing around with it a little bit to make sure you're flat.
Sometimes you gotta get out something a little different, and you have to go grab a piece of plastic.
So now we got a piece of lead.
357.
Okay. You can hear the noise difference the way it's even vibrating.
That's solid.
Put it right down.
Great.
Let me see that piece of lead. So you use the lead, just a little chunk of it, and then hit it with the brass, and it knocked it right down.
Yep.
All right, so now you're ready to go. Your piece is on the in your grinding vise and sitting nice and flat
Yes.
on that pin inside there. Okay.
And then even, I'd go as far as sometimes as running an indicator across this to make sure that I got it, you know, flat and don't have a super high side.
Okay. The good news is you could do that, but for this part, the overall dimensions mean nothing.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get it flat and parallel, so we don't really have to check. If it's a thou high on one end, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
If you had only a thou tolerance here, and you're trying to dust off a few tenths, you might want to make sure that thing was indeed parallel. So now is the probably one of the hardest parts for beginners to learn, and that is
Touching
just
off.
touching off,
Sometimes it helps to ink it up.
right? Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah. I don't want to catch the speaker cord.
That's fine. That's just a Sharpie marker. Or you could do just Dykem if you want, it just makes a mess though.
Dykem will actually, yeah, it'll go up a little bit higher so
Right.
you can touch the Dykem before you can touch the part if you come in slow enough. Oh, I'm not messing with the light.
You're fine. And this is a matter, guys, of getting your face right in there and just slowly bringing that wheel down. I'm sure you're watching the amount of light under the wheel,
Yes.
which gets harder as you get older. So sometimes what I'll do is either drop this light right there down behind the wheel, so I've got a nice light to look through. It makes it easier, or at least hold a white piece of paper back there.
Well, we have a nice white backplate right here.
Okay,
that
so
we
you,
can
so
look
you can
through.
you can see.
You can see right to it
Okay.
as long as the light's not shining in your
Right.
eyes. Yeah.
And of course, that's a great point. You want to make sure you're going back and forth. Unlike a mill where you can kind of come down and pick up in one spot, a grinder you really don't want to do that. There's your high spot.
And there's the bow in it.
Yep.
So now we'll lock that and set this 0.
So you got a 0 set where you just picked up.
0.
Okay.
And each one of the longer marks is 1,000. That's a half thou.
Okay.
And those lines are the tenths.
Okay. It's a vernier.
Vernier?
That's a vernier scale.
Vernier.
Yeah. So you're set at 0.
Yeah, and I'll take a thou. Just to get something taken.
Now I notice you lock that head every time because you don't want to bump that
because
thing.
I don't want to bump it.
Show
I'm
that
not-
lock again. That's you
this
see
is a
that.
lock
And
right
most
here.
grinders, when the handles up on the head, they don't do that because you're not going to bump it.
Yeah.
But down there, they probably got enough complaints of people screwing up their work by bumping it with their hip that
Yeah.
they put a lock
Right.
there. Okay.
I'm not used to it down here, so
Right.
I always make sure I lock it real good.
All right. So he's picked up and now he's grinding across. And about how much? It's just by feel how much you index over, right?
Yeah, you just take it whatever the wheel feels like it wants to take.
I mean, it looks like now you're taking, watching the readout up there. About 50 thousandths to the crack.
Yeah. Normally we'd have a sucker on, but that would interfere with the audio.
The grinding desk smells great,
Yeah.
especially because I'm on this end of it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna step back. You keep going, and this is what it looks like to have a grinder running. You got your wheel on. You've got your left hand taking your traverse of your table left to right, and then his right hand is on the saddle, moving that out towards him right now. And you can see, if I watch the readout, he's moving that about 50 thousandths at a time. But you can tell after you get experience if you're doing too much. It really gets noisy and your part gets really warm.
And to get a uniform finish, you gotta go across the whole part.
Yep. So that means once you've come across to taking your first cut, you don't drop the wheel again. You go right. You're taking the spring out of the wheel, right? Do you go back across, or will you drop that again?
No, I'll go back
Okay.
across. Crank across and come back across the same direction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that way you only wear out one part of your wheel, so you always have a
Okay.
sharp part
Okay.
in the back.
So you're going to take the spring out going one way only.
Yes.
Okay.
But I'll take another thou, and I think that'll clean that.
Now, would you take the thou or would you take the spring out first? Would you come across the wheel? You just took a pass. You crank back. Now, do you take the spring out, or are you just going to drop in another thou?
I'm not familiar with the spring.
I mean, instead of going back, you just came this way. Why wouldn't you just go back across now? Not dropping the head, just to take that.
Oh. No, I never.
Okay, you always just go to the back.
Yeah,
Okay.
I always just go to the back. I mean, I'm almost self-taught.
Okay.
So now I'll take another thou off of that. That should clean that completely up. These two little spots out on the side.
Let's see here. Okay.
I'll link
You
them
saw
up
it
so
right
they're
there?
easier to see.
And right there. Two spots that didn't clean up.
Those spots should clean up now.
Now this, everybody should know, this is pretty soft material. These aren't hardened. This isn't a hardened piece of material.
And you want to keep an even flow.
Meaning what?
Keep moving. You don't want to stop at any point in it, because you'll get an indentation of the wheel cutting into the part. And if you stop halfway through cranking through it, it'll leave a line through the whole part where you changed the heat difference.
Now is that, if that's your finished pass, right?
I think so. We'll see how it looks.
Then before you crank that head back, let's see how it looks. Don't send it back. I want to try something here.
Okay.
Now what are you looking for? You just want to see if those two spots cleaned up?
Yeah, well, also the overall finish, see how
Okay.
it looks. Looks good.
Okay. Now, what would you would you normally now feed back across, or just you would say you're done?
I'd normally say I was done.
Feed back across the other way once, just for kicks and giggles
Yeah,
here.
I'm. Are you recording?
Yeah, good.
I've been self-taught, so I don't know exactly, everything.
Nobody does.
Yeah, learn something new every day.
See, you're still taking a little bit off there. See, that's what I usually do, is go back the other way after a finished pass, just to take that off. And what I'm suspecting here is a slight bow,
Yes.
because the middle is not hitting now.
Well, the middle's a little cooler too.
Right.
The ends will get a little warmer.
Right. So, I don't know how much that bow is, but you can see it's definitely not hitting in the middle. So if you wanted that perfectly flat, it might not be right now. Would you drop it down a couple tenths and just take a really light pass across it to get rid of that heat?
Yeah. But I'd let it cool down. I'd put a bar of aluminum on it
Okay.
to cool it down.
Suck the
first.
heat out?
Sucks the heat out.
Right.
And then come back across it with, only a couple tenths. Taking it off.
All right, so let me do something here. Whoop. So I'm feeling this. It's not too bad. It's actually fairly cool. I've seen these parts. If you take too much off at once, get really warm, and heat is your enemy. Now what we're experiencing here is, you notice when he fed back the other way, that it was only cutting on the ends. When he originally came out from here to here, even though he's only taking a thousandths off this surface, it was picking up heat in the middle. Okay, so what was basically happening, the cross section of this piece being like 8 inches long, it started picking up heat here, and either the part was coming up a little bit or the wheel was being drawn into it, but he got a bow. And we're not talking a lot here. And we saw the bow when he fed back across that he was only hitting on the ends. So either the ends had bowed up a hair, or the middle had become a little concave. but we're probably not perfectly flat there. And the reason again is because this part is so long. It's 8 inches long, and it is easy to catch a lot of heat there. So while we're doing that and you're still set up there, let's tilt that on an angle just to see what happens. Tilt this on like a 45-degree angle to take the heat out, so that way everybody will get what we're trying to accomplish here.
Set that down and clean off the chuck. Now I noticed a scratch here. I don't know if that came from me or if that's been there.
Mm-hmm.
Rub across it to make sure there's no high spots.
Okay, that's good. Now, once the magnet's on, I'll jump in and show everybody what we're going to accomplish here. And that might even be a little too extreme of an angle. You could probably kick that back a little bit. That's good. Now this is much more time consuming, but if you really want something flat, now what we're going to do is we're only cutting from here to here. We're taking, instead of cutting this huge cross section that was 8 inches before, you're going to see now he's only cutting from here to here. Now we've taken that 8 inches down to maybe 3 inches, okay, across from here to here. So, do you have any Dykem in here so we could see it?
I have Dykem outside I could go grab.
Okay.
Time.
So no Dykem right now, so he's going to take a little a Sharpie here. It sure smells like a Sharpie.
Yep.
And this is for us, and for if you're watching this will make it very clear as to what's going on here. So we've tilted this part over on about a 30-degree angle, and for fun now, can we just leave this Z-axis or the head alone and just come right across that? Nothing should have moved, right?
Technically nothing should have moved.
That's the nice part about a grinder. You can actually take your vise off a grinder and put it right back on, because of the nature of grinding. Everything here is 100% precise.
Yes.
So
this isn't my
that's
shop,
fine. That's all right. I think it'll be pretty close. So why don't you start up at that upper right corner and see what we get.
Okay. Sure that's why. It's taking a little.
I'll be curious to see if it takes anything in the middle.
It's taking less in the middle.
Right, as it should be. If we believe that the ends were a little bowed. And again, you don't want to always do it this way, because it does take more time. But you are taking a lot more heat out of the process.
I can hear it's getting heavier on the end.
And just feed that right back across again. And I would be surprised if it doesn't, if it does the same thing as it did last time. I think you'll see a little bit more even.
Not certain.
Just touching. Still getting a little spark, that's good. I'm judging from just experience, I'm going to say that's probably flat within a couple tenths, because he's still sparking a little bit in the middle. And he'll probably, now as he gets towards the end, take a little bit more off. There you go. That was a much more even cut back now. It wasn't just hitting on the end. So basically now what we've done is that, to me, I think will be flat. I guess you could just leave it in the vise and check it for flatness now around the surface plate, right?
Yep.
Okay. So now he's just going to leave it right in the vise without taking it out, just so we can see what kind of how we did on our flatness now. It was out about what, 2,000s before?
Yeah. About a half thou in the middle,
Okay.
high. On the end it's a little high, so maybe the vise might be a little
No,
tilted, or
it shouldn't be
on
tilted because you just ground it flat. So even if the vise was tilted, it should be reading correctly. That's all right. Without the sucker on, there's a lot of dust in here.
Yep.
So that's reading +1 there.
+1 here. Oh, I hit ram this.
Oh,
part
you
into it.
okay.
I'll reset that.
0
Set this at 0.
on that end. So it's about a thou low at that end.
Half thou low, yes.
Okay. I'm surprised at that.
Yeah.
I'm almost wondering if that's a problem with the I don't know if the chuck would be that far out or not.
This chuck
Yeah, it shouldn't be out of thousands.
could be. This has a big ground recently.
Okay.
I don't deal with that chuck.
Okay. You got a red light?
Yep.
Okay, so as you saw, we just checked this, and I'm going to see what the deal is here. That feels nice and smooth. I'll just take a stone, take a little India stone to it. Make sure we're nice and clean here. I'm going to turn it the other way, just for the heck of it. Turn my magnet on. And again, I'm not even going to drop the head. Now you have this locked? No. There you go. You know what we didn't mark is which side is high.
Yep.
Because I don't remember, do you? Picking up a little bit there. So I'm going right back across it, and that's how I always do it, to take that spring out. And just for a finish pass here, I'm going to drop this a couple tenths. And because I'm used to running this grinder like this, I'm not worried about bumping it. That's interesting. See how it's lifting up there again? I'm a little curious about the grinder after that. I'm going to take a few more tenths off and see where we end up. Still not touching on this end. Getting closer. I'm really surprised it's taken that much off that end on the way back, and especially when I haven't even dropped the head. Alright, so it's 90% cleaned up. I'm going to check it out and see what we have over here. It's tough to get that indicator to really, that video camera to see it, but I'll just read it out what we have here. And zero it on that end. Well, let's see here. Well, no, I just did what you did. I hit it on the...
Yep.
Let's try it again there. That's a good point. You got to be careful that you don't bang your indicator under here along the edges of the vise and everything. That's what we both have made the same mistake. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, I mean, we're within the thousands. I can keep doing the same thing. 0. About a half. But what's interesting is that's 0 and we were grinding on it. This is reading high and it missed. You would have thought it would have taken a little bit more off of this because we weren't hitting it yet. That should be reading low, I would think.
Yeah.
So folks, we're within about a half a thousandths in 8 inches. Not great, maybe 6/10. I'm actually getting a rock in this indicator too. See that?
Yeah.
That's maybe not helping us a lot. Everything tight here. Maybe we weren't real tight.
You could also try sliding the part
Right.
under the indicator.
Right. Well, it just becomes a little more difficult. Zero. About 6/10. That's what we were getting before. 0. Yeah, maybe 5/10. Still should be flatter than that. Interesting. All right, I'm going to turn that off a second. Right, it's filming. All right, so obviously what I don't like here is that what I want is this to read 0 and the part I actually finished ground. I know it didn't quite clean up over here, but as long as the parts that I ground said 0 and 0 from here to here, I know I'm flat. I'm not. I've got for some weird reason, I've got a bow in this part. We just checked the chuck, and we've got a bow here. Or not a bow, we're just not flat. And you guys could, just so you know, you might be saying, well, maybe his parallel's off. That doesn't matter. We might not be parallel anymore, but we're grinding this now. This should be flat with the world, okay? So when I go like this, and this, I want a 0 and a 0. So let's try one more thing here. So let's go back up to the grinder. And I'm going to redress this wheel one more time. And you do not have a lock on that, huh? To lock the table. Just these things,
yeah,
right? But okay. Oop, I just did the same thing you were doing. I'm going to put a little rougher dress on this, but by doing that, what I'm saying is I'm going to come down and go across a little faster than Ryan was doing and see if that makes sense. I think our enemy is heat here. We've got a poor wheel selection, which I don't think a 46H on that stuff should matter. So I'm just dropping this down about 1,000ths at a time. And unlike Ryan, you will not see me putting my finger on that grinding wheel. If I'm worried about any little stray granules, I would just put up a piece of wood up against it. It'll usually take most of them off. Or a piece of shim stock. And look at it, talk about habit. I'm still reaching for that handle up there. Up out of the way. Clean it with your hand. Let's try this one more time, because this is turning into a really long video. Okay, I'm going to put this on a little bit of an angle again. On. And I just want to really brush this thing in this time. And again, I guarantee you most of our issue here is probably heat. So now I'm going to, I don't come down as close as I used to when I was a young man. My eyes aren't quite as good as they used to be. I'm watching for that light to just shut off. It's got to be very close, I think. And I'm just dialing down a tenth or so at a time here until I pick that up. Let's see where we're at here. I'm going to set a 0. And back that off a little bit and come back down. Just touching. I'm liking this. You know why? I think this was the high side. Just scraping there, so I'm going to just drop that off a little bit more. I have not dropped my head or my wheel into the piece at all. I'm just taking the spring out with a cross cut and drop it just a few more tenths here. And again, we're really trying to get something extremely flat here. So how close do you think it's going to be this time, Ryan?
Hopefully dead nuts.
Dead nuts.
That's what we're looking for.
I'll take a couple tenths. Now the big lesson while you're watching me just going back and forth here, the other side's going to be easy because now we have established a truly flat side to work from, and as long as we don't pour a bunch of heat when we grind the other side parallel with it, we can just set this piece right on the chuck now. But the trick was to get one side flat. That's why you grind. And I'm glad kind of you saw the issues here that we had today. So I'm going to shut this off. Let go of it. There we go. Here we go, the moment of truth. The moment of truth. I'm going to call that 0. Whoop. That is still a half thousandths high on that end.
Just stop recording?
Yeah. Finally, a big lesson here. This surface plate's a little out. Now you might say, why could the surface plate be out? Well, after years and years of grinding dust on here and these instruments going back and forth, Ryan had a great idea. He said, let's go try a different surface plate. And I said, you know what? Why don't we try a different area on the surface plate? So I switched things around. I've got my piece back here now. And now when I come in here, 0, 0. So there you go. So in the end, we did a great job grinding this piece. There's a great lesson for you we just learned tonight on checking your work. And I never saw this happen before. I couldn't understand why this part wasn't coming out flat, and it was the surface plate. So there's a lesson for you when you buy surface plates. There are people out there who do resurface them, and this one might need a little attention. Because what I would recommend to start with is just maybe flipping this one around. This one's probably been used in this area a lot, and it definitely shows. Now we're 0 and 0 just by going to the back of the surface plate. So that's good news, because I was wondering if I forgot how to grind stuff flat. So this was a really long video, and we'll continue it next time. All we're going to do next time, now that this is flat, we've established that. Whoop, I'll pick that up in a second. And all we're going to do then to finish this off is set that flat side right on our grinder and grind this side parallel. Same, you know, this might be, I don't know what I made these out of years ago. This might be crummy steel. I don't think it's bad. It's usually I made stuff out of P20, but if you've got steel that likes to warp with heat, that'll make things worse. So sometimes it's okay to slide it up against here and just grind it back and forth, but this particular piece of steel is already showing that it kind of wants to warp, because we were very careful. And one last tip for you, either on a surface plate or on a grinding, but it's nice, something nice and smooth like this, to tell if something's bowed really quickly, it should pivot about 1/3 of the way over. Did you know that?
No.
That's a quick tip. If it's bowed, and this side might be bowed, it's pivoting there. That one's not bad. That side doesn't feel too bad. That's not bad. So if depending on which way it's bowed, if it's crowned in the middle up, it's going to spin like a top. So what you want to do, like I said, this surface we just finished, about 1/3 pivot, 1/3 of the way, and you're flat. I mean, still check it with a gauge with your indicator, but that's a quick way to tell if a piece of stock is fairly flat. If it spins like a top, or if it's dragging on the ends, it's one way or the other. So next time then we'll just kiss this in, and then we'll square it up. But you really learned a lot in this video, and the big lesson was you can't even trust your surface plates sometimes. If you know you did everything right, it's all about procedures. A good wheel dress, nice stoned off magnet, a good grinding vise. Everything should have been fine here, and it was in the end. We just have a little bit of a worn surface plate. So learned a lot in this video, and we'll see you on the next one.